welcome to Colleagues Getting Coffee. My name's Annalise James and I am joined today by Steve Reeve from Sporting Difference.
Morning.
Morning. Interesting name, Steve Reeve. It rhymes.
It does rhyme. I was named after a bodybuilder because I was 10.5 pounds when I was born.
Oh really?
Yes, and there was a bodybuilder called Steve Reeves who played, who did he play? Hercules or one of these big, muscly people.
Oh wow.
In the mid-1960s, which was when I was born.
That is amazing.
Yes.
I love that there was a story behind it.
Yes.
Because I just thought you'd be like, yes, my name.
No, and coincidentally there was a Christopher Reeve that became Superman. So my surname is synonymous with big, beefy. Yeah,
and
what went
who you
wrong?
are.
Thanks very much. Cheers.
Here you are making big changes in the sales world.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, lovely. So Sporting Difference.
Yes.
Tell me all about you. Where did you come from? What happened? How did it start?
Oh, so how far back? Always loved sport. Wanted to be a PE teacher. Mucked up my education, so couldn't do that. So I decided to join the Air Force as a physical training instructor.
Very nice.
6 weeks later, when I decided that a military career wasn't for me, I stumbled into sales. And it was the classic sort of, a friend of mine said, "Oh, you're a bit gobby, you could do this," because there was an advert in the paper and I needed a job. And I enjoyed it. I got on with it really well. I found it really good. And I got sent on a program. They were going to promote me from internal sales to field sales.
Yeah.
So they sent me off on a sales training program, which was utterly appalling. 14 weeks every Wednesday afternoon at Southampton University, and you literally just had to learn word for word a script.
Oh no.
And I did the first week and thought, that's not what it's about.
Yeah.
So as you do when you're like 19, 20 years old, I started writing down what I thought sales was about.
Okay.
So I then became a manager reasonably quickly. I was about 21, 22, and I started training my team. And that worked quite well. So then I started training other people in the company, and that worked quite well. And some of them left and went to other businesses, and I started getting phone calls saying, "Would you come and do this for us?"
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I did that as like a subcontract basis, and it was good income, really good income. And I wanted then to get into training full time, but the big training companies, I rang them and they won't touch you when you're like 24, 25.
Yeah, you do need that experience, don't you?
So that's what I did. I went out and carried on getting experience, reasonably structured sales career through telesales management, product management, national sales manager, ended up as for a company, and then finally joined an international sales and management training company. Started working with the likes of Philips, Automobile Association, News International, Seagate Technologies, really prestige businesses.
Just tiny businesses.
Yeah, I started in the June, and the following February I was on a plane down to Athens to do the keynote speech for a distributor conference for a division of Emerson Electric.
Oh my God.
200 odd people in the room, 16, 17 different languages. And when they'd asked me to do it, "You've done this sort of thing before?" "Yeah, of course I've done this sort of thing." "Yeah, of course I've done this sort of thing before." But it went really well, so.
Amazing.
And it's a bit of a rush as well. And I do like the challenge of when you're stood in front of a group of people.
Yeah. Well, they say that you should take risks, don't they?
Yeah.
You should push yourself because
Yeah.
it really develops you. And that is definitely a risk, a push.
Yeah, it's good. But I've always loved watching people develop. And to be the person who gives them that idea and gets them to the point where they feel confident enough to go and try it.
Yeah.
And then they go, "It works." And I went, "Yeah, I know it works. That's why I was telling you to do it."
That's amazing.
"Yeah, but it actually works really well." Yes, it does work really well. So I've got another one of those if you'd like to know about it.
Yeah.
And seeing that in people is just, I love it. Absolutely love it. It's amazing.
So that was then, so you're obviously working for a company and then you were out, you kind of subcontracting, and then is that when you launched Sporting Difference, or is it just sort of organically grow?
No, so the sales training company that I worked for, unfortunately, the owners of the business all fell out and it all ended up in court and it was really nasty. And I was talking to a company at the time who were looking for a sales director because they wanted to restructure their business. So I spoke to them, and after meeting a few people there, I actually joined them as sales director. I intended staying about 18 months. 11 years later, I finally left because we restructured the business. And I know that's normally a euphemism for like redundancy and what have you, but it wasn't. It was about getting more of a sales focus to the business. So they'd never had a sales director before. All of the salespeople reported to operational staff who they'd never been out and been salespeople, so they didn't understand how to coach the people, how to challenge them, what a plan should look like. So we restructured it so that all the salespeople reported to me through a sales management system. That worked quite well, so then they asked me to take on a product that was in a lot of trouble. and basically the product had declined by 10% a year for 5 consecutive years.
Wow.
And a lot of the cost base of the business was built around that product, so we needed to fix it. 6 weeks later we put the team together. This was in the May, and by the end of that year it had shown its first growth for 5 years. It went up by 12% I think that year, and then over the course of the following 2 years it increased by a total of 60%.
That's amazing.
And it was using all the principles that I used from my days of sales and management training.
Okay, what are these magical beans?
Well, to be fair, that one, you know how sometimes you can look at something from the outside and it's really obvious?
Yeah. No, I feel that way all the time.
And it was, to me, it was really, really obvious what needed to be done. So we needed to introduce an activity reporting system for the sales team, because we were losing too many customers. So we needed to make sure that what we were doing was hanging on to those customers as well as getting the new business, which they were quite good at.
Yeah, that is absolutely key and actually really quite obvious.
So that was one point, and then there were 2 key areas where the business needed to get some more revenue from. One was from less weather and less construction dependent sectors.
Okay.
So we set out to go and secure contracts with the water sector. And I think over the course of that 2-3 year period, we didn't have any contracts at all at the start of it, and I think we secured either 6 or 7 over the course of the next 2 years, some of which went on to run for 10 years.
That's amazing.
And
I think it's about that focus though, like you said.
Yeah.
You kind of, because they say that when you set up a business, like who's your audience? Who are you targeting? And that's so important.
Yeah.
Because you know where you're going, then you know where your trajectory is, because a lot of people just dilly-dallying around.
Yeah.
And then they're like, I don't get anyone coming to me. And I'm like, well, who are you after? Oh, I don't know.
Yeah, and it is about being really focused. And I think the thing that's really hard to do, especially as a startup, is to say, right, I want those people.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you see some people there. It's like, oh, actually, I could go for those as well. But they need a slightly different message. So now you've got 2 or 3 messages you're trying to get out to people. And then you see some people just the other side of that. And, oh, okay, but if I adapt that message slightly, and then all of a sudden you've got 6 or 7 different messages, maybe even more, and you're not sure which ones to go for, and it's always going to change a little bit. But if you've got that clarity, then you can make sure that your message and what you're delivering is exactly what you want it to be.
As well, about when you're kind of creating your offer, it's about being really niche.
Yeah.
Because you've got a current 12 steps, sales steps, is that right?
Yeah, 12 small steps I've called it. I didn't realise there are other 12-step programs as well that are in existence. But
12 is really popular.
Apparently, yeah. Mine's 12 because it was to do the whole of quarter 3.
Okay.
So I did an introduction for the first one, which then left 12 weeks in order to do the 12 steps. So what I effectively did was laid out the elements that chiefly caused my 60% rise in sales when I was
that's amazing. I think a lot of people will be like, where is this? And
and if people put those things in place, 60% sounds a lot, but in reality the 12 things that I go through in that, so for instance how well you open a call, how good your questioning skills are, how well you know your product. There's so many salespeople, I say, okay, you do know your product, don't you? Yeah. What's your USP then? What's your unique selling point? Oh, I don't know. Probably 80 to 90% of salespeople can't tell you that. And I just think, well, that's ridiculous. And when it comes down to basic stuff like features and benefits, so what are the key things that will help your customer? How will your customer benefit from what your product does? Explain it to me. Explain it to me in a short, concise way. They can't do it. So if you're better at each of those, to just get another 1, 2 or 3%, if you're talking about 12 items, then really with sort of compound interest, you only need to get about an extra 3 or 4% out of each element, and you're at 60% very, very quickly.
And it's fundamental, isn't it? Because really sales and marketing, I suppose, as well, is about trust. And if you're a salesperson stood in front of someone else and you're like, oh yeah, you should totally buy this product, and they're like, why? And you're like, well, because I said so. But you can't really sell it. Like, how do they trust that? Yeah,
so the process I use has got 8 steps to it. It's possible. So preparation, opening, stand in their shoes, summarise, introduce your product, bring together, let's agree, execute.
Okay, what? Possible. So P?
Preparation.
O.
Opening.
S.
Stand in their shoes, understand the customer.
Okay, S.
Summarise.
How is it possible?
I. Well done. Introduce your product.
B.
Bring together.
L.
Let's agree.
E.
Execution. Execute.
So if I asked you to do this backwards,
Yeah, no problem at all.
Execution.
But do you know what? You say that, this is going to come across really corny. Most salespeople do it backwards. They start at the I.
Oh, do they?
They start at the 5th stage of the process. That's the first point at which you're supposed to talk properly about your product or your service. And what they do is they go in and they go, we do this, we do this, we do this, we do this. I had loads of salespeople over the course of the last 2 or 3 months I've met come in and say, we do this, we do this, we do this. We've done this for these people, we've done this for that people. 20 minutes in, they suddenly go, what do you do then?
Yeah, I do know what they always say, that in sales that you should let the people talk to you.
Yeah.
I used to do business development, so I used to sit there and say, okay, how can I help your business?
Yeah.
What do you need right now? Blah, blah, blah. Because obviously working for a university or college, there was lots of things I could offer them, not just apprenticeship training.
Yep.
But listening really opened that door, and then I could be super useful. But people are like, oh, by the way, we do apprenticeships and blah, 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 and then you're like, people don't want it, and you wonder why.
But that's exactly it. It's so simple. Just ask decent questions, listen to people, and then make sure that all you talk to them about are the things they're interested in.
It's always when people have an agenda that people find salespeople insufferable. Because if someone's just ramming their agenda down your throat, people are just like, I'm over this. And it really turns people off you, your business.
It does, massively.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's about being calm, being confident, and knowing that if you ask the questions and if you talk to somebody, then either you'll understand this wasn't the prospect for you, so you need to look at what your lead generation process is, or you will find out how your product helps that person, what it is specifically that will help that person in that circumstance, and then you can show them that bit and just that bit. And don't tell them anything else, shut up.
So I am interested because I watched The Wolf of Wall Street recently. Again, I love it, Leonardo DiCaprio. And this whole, have you seen the film Glengarry Glen Ross? No. It's a really old sort of 80s, 90s movie. No. It's got like kind of Alec Baldwin in it. It's about sales. And they always say about always be closing the ABCs of sales.
Rubbish. Yeah.
I don't really believe in closing.
No, there's no such thing as closing.
Yeah, because if you're actually talking to someone about something that's useful to them, or they want, and you're only giving them, like you said, what they want, then there's not closing in it. No. You're not like, I got them over the line. No. Because surely they just said, oh, I wanted this thing, and I say, oh, I do that thing, and they're like, oh, good.
That's why I've not got close in my structure. Yeah. So after introduce your product, bring together what that is about is a bit of negotiation, because people always feel that they need to negotiate. So it might be a little bit of objection handling, maybe clarifying some things. So that's all that is. It is literally saying, right, I've understood this. This is how I've presented it to you. Have I got it right? There's a chance to just finely tune that, and that product presentation or service presentation might actually create more questions in the customer's mind as well, which require answering. So you go back and do a little bit more questioning and go through that bit again. But it is literally it's just saying, okay, so it would look like this and it would look like that, and how does that sound? And okay, that's brilliant. And the bit about let's agree, that's just the detail. Yeah, that's absolutely. Then literally just saying, okay, so when would it start and what would happen as a result of that?
Also setting those expectations for people, isn't it? Which is really key. Yeah. And managing expectations too. Like when are you delivering on this, so everybody's clear. Yeah, I always recommend at that stage put everything in writing. And too many people are frightened to do that. Okay, so obviously you've done a lot of excellent work with companies, and obviously you're doing online as well, which is amazing. Yeah. What are you working on right now?
So, at the last LinkedIn Local Portsmouth, I launched a new initiative, which is called Share Our Skill. Okay. And what that is the ability for people on LinkedIn to communicate through their connections and through their network, either directly to their first connections or to a wider base, so that if they've got something that they need help with, what they can do is ask people to help them with that, but in return they'll share a skill with that person. Okay. And it's an hour for an hour. Oh, so nice. No financial
So this is
involved.
Like exchange of services?
Yes. But it's more about pointing somebody in the right direction. So the example would be, when I first started, I'm fine with sales, but marketing, it's not my thing. Yeah. Which is bizarre, because I was a sales and marketing director, but I made it up as I went along. Yeah. And it's a really skilled...
And they're very different. People think they're the same thing, but they're not.
Different.
I went to this seminar recently with Alison Edgar. She helps all sorts of entrepreneurs. Okay. But she says the difference between sales and marketing is that marketing sets up it's got like golf, you set up the ball on the tee,
Yep.
and then sales is hitting the ball.
That's a good, that's a good analogy.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah, that's a good analogy.
That's really good.
But I spent a lot of time and money talking to marketing companies and getting duff advice.
Yeah.
And the trouble was, everyone you talk to in that circumstance, they've got an agenda because they want you to part with your cash.
Yeah, yeah.
So if I could have found, and it ended up quite some time down the line, I met a girl called Emma Wilson who has Imari Marketing. And she and I were just talking, and I was explaining to her what my issues were. And she was just saying, well, okay, well, if you look in this direction, if you look in that direction. And she said, it's interesting because I'm struggling with the sales side of things.
Oh, right.
So I said to her, well, look, why don't we share with each other? I'll help you with your sales and you help me with my marketing. And she said, oh, okay, fine, but we're going to have to work out how we do that because your daily rate is like 4 times what my daily rate is. I said, well, that's not relevant because included in my daily rate is preparation. And I said, it doesn't work like that. And anyway, we had a bit of a to and fro over it. And in the end, I said, look, we either do this as an hour for an hour.
Yeah.
I said, an hour of your time is valuable to you, an hour of my time is valuable to me.
Yeah, yeah.
And irrespective of how you might try and monetize that, the reality is it's an hour. And that kind of sparked a thought process with me that if we could, it worked so well for me in terms of like the marketing side of things, and it worked really well for her in terms of the sales side of things. And I thought if we'd been able to, we bumped into one another by coincidence, what if there was a way of going out and looking for that person that you knew you could have a non-agenda discussion with and rely on their advice to just point you in the right direction. It would save so much time. If I could have done that when I was trying to find the people to make my website originally, that would have saved me hours and hours, weeks of work.
It's about having those advocates that really understand you and understand your business and will help you by giving you information about others that you then trust because they trust them. Yes. But also promoting you.
Yeah. And my bit is all about people sharing their skills and sharing it in a non-commercial way, so there's no money changes hands. And it's so that you can get advice from somebody and some help from someone, and in return you give them something. And it might be, I don't know, might be that you teach them how to play the guitar for an hour. And one of the problems is that most of us undervalue our own time and overvalue other people's time. You almost feel embarrassed about what you charge for your time.
Oh, can we talk about pricing,
if you
please?
like?
Right. Pricing is something that comes up over and over again.
Yeah.
And it seems to be a real sticking point. People are scared to price, they undervalue themselves. What's your tip around pricing?
Confidence.
Yeah.
Absolute confidence. Whatever sales structure you use, the sales structure you use should be understand your customer, check that you've understood them, and then and only then talk to them about your product or service, and only about the elements that they say are useful to them. If you do that, you are going to get a lot of nods and yeses along the way. So when you do finally go, it is this. What you will be able to do is frame that in some way of like a return on investment, for instance, or what they will get out of it in terms of value. And that's the only thing that counts. What will this person get out of this in terms of value? So as far as pricing is concerned, people would look at me and say that my sales and leadership training is expensive. It is towards the top end in terms of if you just look at the day rate. But when you look at everything else that you get from that in terms of how I bespoke the programs, the level of understanding that I have of the customer before I stand in front of them for the very first time, my ability to be able to get people to buy into stuff on the program, even the biggest cynics, because what I've done is spent the time and effort to understand what the answers to some of their typical objections will be before they've even come up with them. Then all of that builds that value, and it means that what they do is they get a return on that investment. So when people leave a training program with me, they want to go and put this stuff into place because it's logical, but also they're enthused, and they feel there's some inspiration that's come as a result of the programs. They want to go and try these things because they can see it make it better. And all that pricing is about at the point that you present it, which remember is it's only a feature of your product. You don't do it until the eye. Don't tell people earlier. Because it depends on exactly what that customer wants. That's going to affect the price.
So salient 3 tips in sales leadership, the things that you do. What would be your top takeaways for people?
For me, if it was three things, it would always be the communication skills of listen to the other person, ask good questions of the other person so that you properly understand them.
Yeah.
Whether that be in a sales scenario or as a manager trying to get someone else to buy into your idea. Listen properly to what they say.
Do you get frustrated when you're working with people and you just see them not doing that all the time and you're just like...
Yeah, and if people come and sell to me and I see that they're not doing it, or they ask me a question, and as I'm answering them, they're looking through their product book. I did stop talking once when someone did that to me, and I reckon it was about 10 or 12 seconds before they realised.
Oh my God.
Yeah, which was probably the most extreme example.
That is so bad.
So definitely ask good questions.
Yeah.
Make it chatty, like we've been doing. This is how this is what a sales call should look like. It's a chat.
Yeah.
Make sure that you listen, and then make sure that what you do is when you frame what you're asking that person to do, or you're framing your product presentation, that it's totally based on what that person said to you.
Where can people find more information about you?
Obviously the website, sportingdifference.com.
Yep.
If LinkedIn is people's thing, then Steve Reeve, R-E-E-V-E.
Yeah. No Facebook?
No Facebook. No.
Twitter?
Twitter's for personal, for fun.
Okay.
So
website, LinkedIn.
Website and LinkedIn, basically.
Amazing. And you'll send some links for your 12 steps and
yeah, definitely.
some bits and bobs as well?
Yeah. There's a YouTube channel as well, so all of it's on YouTube. I did a 10 tips, 10 days series a little while ago as well. All of that's on there.
Useful.
So
I love it.
I like putting content out there.
Yeah.
And it's quite nice when people write back and go, do you know, I tried this and it worked.
Positive feedback.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's really good.
Make sure you're going in the right direction.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for joining me.
That's brilliant. Thanks very much. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, good. Thank you.